Hello again, and welcome to another Perplexed Parent Stressed Student Guide to AQA A-Level Law. Today I'm going to be looking at Paper 3, the Human Rights paper. I'll be explaining the structure of the paper, some of the skills that are being assessed, ways that some of the questions can be tackled, and suggesting some methods to help retain, understand, apply, and evaluate the required content. First of all then, let's have a look at the content of the paper, specifically the kinds of areas of non-substantive law that are being covered. So here's a list of what AQA have said will be covered on the paper. Sources of law, the difference between civil and criminal law, the rule of law and its principles, delegated legislation, how it's made and how it's controlled, sources of European law, the role of judges and the importance of the independence of the judiciary, access to justice and funding for representation, and the three big areas are balancing conflicting interests, law and morality, law and justice, which are covered in question 9 and are worth 15 marks. I'm not going to be producing videos explaining the content of these, as there's a terrific site called Flipped Law with videos and worksheets that you can complete. So there's little point reinventing the wheel. Your son or daughter may have access to this site. Get them to ask their college if not. In a previous video, I've suggested starting at the end of the paper to manage time and maximise marks. But for the sake of logic, I'm going to follow the paper in the order in which the questions appear in this video. So the first thing you'll encounter on paper 3B, or 3A if you've done contract law, is 5 short multiple choice questions. Look at the wording of them carefully. They will either be asking for true statements or negative statements. This will usually be highlighted in bold. So your son or daughter should look out for the statements that obviously cannot be true or must obviously be true. Before they even look at the statements, they might want to quickly think about, what do I know about this particular topic? Because that might actually guide their answers. The questions only carry 1 mark, so they shouldn't spend much more than a minute on each. Moving on to question 6 then, it's an explain response, and it sometimes requires the listing of a number of features. For example, in 2009, the question asked 2 ways in which judicial independence was ensured. To do this, your son or daughter has to be regularly revising their notes on the topic. This is worth 5 marks, so they should spend only 6 minutes answering. It might be a good idea if they include a quick comment about why judicial independence is important and how this is legally achieved through separation of powers. Moving on to question 7, also worth 5 marks, starts with a suggest why, and may ask why a human rights violation has occurred in the scenario. It's essential that they set out the scope of the relevant article, what it covers, and perhaps for good measure, circumstances when an action that a state authority takes is not a breach of a European Convention on Human Rights article. In 2019, the question dealt with publishing photographs of a celebrity. So a relevant case from law could be cited, and if there's time, recent examples where privacy has been breached in the news. Again, this carries 5 marks, so around 6 minutes to answer. Question 8 is now starting to ramp up the demands, both in terms of time and marks. So often this question will be framed as an advisory question, as if a client needed an explanation of some relevant aspect of human rights and whether it's been violated. So to do this, your son or daughter will need to know, again, the scope of the right, what type of right it is, the exceptions to the rule, either an absolute, qualified or limited rights, and how far British laws that cover the situation apply. The scenarios are often in thinly disguised cases that will all